Today we have a lot of work to get done, specifically on our chicken coop. There are a couple of things that need to be addressed today, and I thought I'd bring you along and show you what we've done on this chicken coop. Oh, she's noisy today. But let's take a look. Let's see what we could do to improve this a little bit better. Okay, so the problem we're having right here is the hose that I put in is leaking. Looks like the clamp here is failing. And this pump is also leaking. A couple years ago this froze up and it burst, and I kind of smashed it together and re-screwed it together, and it was working fine, but just a couple weeks ago it started to leak, so I held it on with that clamp. Now that this is starting to leak, we're just gonna replace it all and get it taken care of. If you haven't taken a look at the video that explains this whole system, I'm gonna go ahead and put a link wherever, one of those things that you can click on and check out that video. But we're gonna replace this, and then I'm gonna show you the other things that I did to fix this system. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. And then, since I tightened this with the tools, I'm gonna use the tools to loosen it up and get this off. And since there's water still in the system, it will need to drain. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So we're gonna let it drain. And you can tell that this water's a little bit dirty, so after I get all the fittings changed out and all the hoses changed out, I think I might drain this out, clean it out, since I have it all taken apart, and get it cleaned up for. And there's the old hose. You can see that you can see up there that it's starting to crack, come apart. I'm gonna take this back into the shop, take it apart, clean it out, and see if I can reuse it. I'd like to have two. That way, if something like this happens, I'm not out and I don't have to wait for shipment of a replacement or anything like that. I can simply just swap them out quickly and repair the one when I have time. I have a secondary one here that's been taken apart and fixed before. So there's the pump mechanism. It has the I'm just going to make sure that that is snug and fit. You don't want to tighten it too tight because you don't want to crack it. And then you got to follow the arrows on here to make sure that it's going the right way. Put on some plumber's tape. Now, instead of doing the plastic hose that I did before with the clamps, I am just opting to put in this washing machine hose. Now, I'm not sure if this is rated for outdoor use, but I know it's going to work for us here. I don't want to tighten it too tight. Let's see. Yeah. So to go from the 3/4 inch fitting here to the 1/2 inch here, I have this coupler that is it's a 3/4 inch male to 1/2 inch female. So again, the plumber's tape goes on to the male end. And then the adapter goes on. And we're back in business. Some of these parts you don't want to tighten with your tools too tight. It can, it can break the plastics. The PVC connection, the pump, they're all made with plastic, so hand tightening those will be ideal in this situation. You want to make sure that you use plumber's tape so that it has a tight connection and doesn't link on you. Check it every couple days or so just to make sure that you don't have any leaks. The last thing that you want to do is leave it and forget it. And 5-6 days later, you come out to check it and there was a leak and all your water's gone and the chickens are dehydrated or dead. So yeah, just keep an eye on it and make sure your system is working to its full capacity. After a couple minutes, it doesn't look like there's any leaking, so I'm going to call that good. Now because of this adapter here that I put on this spigot, I can put a garden hose up to it and just open it up and just drain this whole system. Draining it over here into the chicken tunnel just for the chickens to dig in and get cool. Today's a pretty hot day, so we're gonna let them just have fun with that. So this last winter, I got pretty upset. The original heater that I put in here worked great for the first couple of years, but this last year just crapped out. And I got fed up with it, and I needed something that was a little bit more reliable, cost a little bit more money, but ended up being great this last winter. The only problem is I had to cut an extra large hole at the top here to fit in the heater. And let me show you what it looks like. That's gross. So there's a lot of calcium buildup on it, and of course some crud that needs to be cleaned out. But so this is the replacement. It is a heater that's used for like horses, goats, to heat up their water troughs during the winter. And it's perfect for this. It doesn't get too hot to melt the plastic. It gets hot enough that this actually stays thawed out the entire winter. Have the pump in there to keep circulating that water so that the chicken watering nipples on the inside of the run don't freeze up. So the heater keeps this nice and thawed out and warm, and that pump keeps all that water that's in the system flowing so that it doesn't freeze up either. So now that I have this out, I'm going to give this a good brush, a good wash, and clean out the rest of this. So seeing how gross this thing went and got, I'm going to keep it out. I'm going to let it air dry. I'm going to scrub it up a little bit more, get it cleaned up a little bit more. But yeah, I think I might be pulling this every spring and putting it in every fall just to keep it clean and make sure that it's working properly. So besides that, I feel pretty good about it. I'm going to go ahead and close this up and fill this up about halfway. We've had a pretty dry summer this year, so I'm going to fill it up about halfway and hope for a little bit more rain to fill this tank back up and have it be self-reliant again. But I feel pretty good about the changes that we made on here, so let's move on to the next one once this fills up. So we've gotten these new chicks back in February, and they're grown up now and they're starting to lay eggs. The other chickens have not been too kind, so they've been using this nesting box here as their kind of roosting area. Well, the other chickens have been using this to lay their eggs, and we still are fighting one of our chickens that keeps eating eggs. So we're going to convert this into our custom-made nesting boxes that keep the chickens from eating their own eggs. So it's pretty simple. It just has the little ramp. It's just a piece of plywood that rests on the 2x4 that's in the chicken coop. And then you have the blocker piece that allows the eggs to roll underneath, but keeps the chickens from pecking at the laid eggs. And it just screws in between the two support beams here. Now if you need a little bit more of a leverage here, you can actually put an offcut piece of wood or whatever in between your board there. Give a little bit more of a slant and an angle for those eggs to roll properly. So in our nesting boxes, we've ended up closing these last two to kind of keep as storage. And it's been great for our original 6 chickens that we've had, but we added 3 more, and there's still a big pecking order with these new chickens and the older chickens, and the newer chickens are too afraid to use the nesting boxes that the others like, and they've been actually laying the eggs on the other side of these nesting boxes. So I'm going to open up this last one here. I'm going to keep this as storage. I'm going to open up this last one and get it prepared for them, and hopefully they'll start laying eggs in there. I don't think I'll have to do the angled beds like I did with this last one. The culprit, the one that eats the eggs, they like these lighter eggs, and the newer chickens, they are Easter eggers, and they are blue eggs. And I don't know if they don't realize that those are eggs and they don't go for them to eat them, but they haven't touched those eggs. So I'm gonna test it out, open this up, and get it ready for them. So these are our ceramic eggs. We were using them to try to deter them from eating their own eggs, but that didn't work, obviously. It worked for a few months, and then they started getting smart. So a nice thing about having the dividers here is you can repurpose those and put them as dividers to keep them out of the nesting area. Don't you hate it when you drop screws and you can't find them in the grass? Well, got a couple in my pocket just in case. This is ready for them. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be right back with this one. Now, I didn't have a full sheet, but I did have these pieces of cedar left over from a project, and they'll work fine here. If you don't have wood, you can always block this off with cardboard. The chickens don't care what's covering this. Let's see if I can get a better angle of this. There we go. And you're fine to split wood, it's okay. You're not gonna lose any awards. The chickens aren't gonna scoff and call you names. The only people that will see it is you, and if you have a YouTube page and you decide to put it on that. There. It's sturdy enough to keep the chickens out, but gives you a nice space to put storage and other things in. Not quite as much as 2 bays, but enough to hold what I need it to. Well, this is our fix to chickens eating eggs, and for the younger chicks to have a place to nest as well. So we'll see how this works for them, and I already know that this is going to work perfect for us. So I'll let you know what this does and if it needs any more adjustments. But I believe we're good to go with these nesting boxes with the solutions that we've provided today. So the other thing that we wanted to set up with the chicken coop was to give them a little bit more freedom without have them roaming too much in the yard. We found that when they roam in the yard, it's great, but they're a little bit less protected and they get too comfortable outside the coop, meaning that they will find other places to nest, to lay their eggs, and it becomes a full-on Easter egg hunt at that point. So what we've decided was to do a permanent chicken tunnel for them to access our garden. So mind the weeds, but we put in this chicken tunnel that is supported by 2x4s and allows us to have the chickens move about our garden easier. If you can see, it's a fairly simple design, just a few 2x4s that we had left over from other projects that we just screwed together, and we were able to nail this fence to. Gives them plenty of room to move while keeping them secure and away from their garden. And as I showed in the last video, we have this access door that we can easily open and close from outside the garden and the coop. At the end of their season, we can easily remove this section of the chicken tunnel, allowing them to just go in and out and access the full garden. Chicken tunnels are great for giving your chickens access to places where they shouldn't be and keeps them protected. So another problem that I have constantly in the run is birds. No matter how much that I try putting up pieces of wood, putting up more hardwood cloth, they always get in. And it's even if the small cracks, they'll manage to wedge themselves in and get in. The problem is getting out. We have so many birds, at least 2 a day, that have to come out, and I have to open up the door and let them come out. The problem with that is the chickens also want to come out. They know that when they're out in the yard, they get a lot more bugs and a lot more treats if they're out there. So as soon as that door opens, they want to get out. No. Oh, we got a goose on the loose. Come on. So much work. So today what we're going to do is we're going to install a door that is inspired by the homing pigeon doors that allows the birds to enter and not leave, but we're going to set it up so that they can leave but not enter. And I think this is the best place to put it. So this is the device that I made, and it's just made with a 6-inch bolt with these eye bolts attached to it, and they're separated by these nuts and washers, so it acts as a swinging mechanism. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it right up there. Now I want these to be on the outside, that way when you push up against it, they go out, but if you're on the outside, they can't push in. So that is ideal. And I'm just using this extra wire that I had from when I put up the electric fence for the meat birds. It's a very big gauge of wire, and it should hold in place pretty well. All right, I think that's a pretty good job right there. So another problem that I found is with our downspout here. It's a custom made job with PVC pipe and this round fixture here on the grain gutter. It's a big box door made solution, and I just kind of put it in place and put silicone around it, hoping for the best. But the amount of ice that built up here actually pushed this down and snapped it, so it is no longer providing enough rainwater for it to fill the tank. So an easy fix for this is, I'm not going to do the same thing I did before and silicone it and hope for the best. I'm actually going to put it's a conduit strap here. I'm just going to push that up. Just going to push that up. Screws don't need to be that long. It was either the really tiny short ones or these big long 3-inch ones, so I'm doing the 3-inch ones, but this will do just fine. I'm going to kind of angle it up so as it goes closer to the wood frame, it's going to draw that and it's going to pull this up even more. And if you ever tied down a trailer and you use those ratchet straps, you have to say, once you're done, that ain't going nowhere. So the last thing I want to do is aesthetics. Now this trim work on this door, the constant opening and closing, it's starting to pull away from the plywood. So we are going to fix this today. So you can see right here, there's a gap and it's starting to pull away from the other trim. It's because the glue and the nail brads, for some reason, aren't holding it. The glue probably because I painted it first and then glued it, and it's not adhering properly to structure. So what we're going to do is we're going to drive a screw through this, but to keep this face clean like it is, we're going to drive the screw from the other side. So when doing this, you want to make sure that you have the right size screw. This screw is going to go through the plywood and the trim, but not all the way through to the other side. When we screw this in, we just want to make sure that it's not going to go deep into the plywood. We want to make sure that it's going to be nice and clean on the front. So right now, I am just going to eyeball it, make sure that we're in the right spot. Slowly drive that in. And as we're driving it in, so before we get to the other part, we're just gonna get a clamp on this to bring that a little bit closer. And now we're gonna drive that in. And that right there is good enough. So we didn't completely make that flush, but if you can see on the top, we're flush against that, and that's what's important. Now the door is the important part. It's the part that keeps the chickens secure, and it gives it a little bit of a windbreak between the two doors. So you want to make sure that these trim pieces are going to be secure and in good working condition. The other pieces of trim that's on the coop, that's not as important. It's more aesthetics. Those ones don't come off as easily as the door does, so you want to keep an eye on the door, the egg door, just to make sure that that trim stays on. Well, we're going to call that good for now, right? So thanks for tagging along, and if you haven't already, go ahead and check out the other videos that we have on our channel, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks.